Mother Teresa once said, kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless.
That's really beautiful. What do you think it means?
I think it means that, like an echo with short words, uh, what you send out comes back to you and can actually even rattle around and bounce around back and forth or even to other people. So little kindness goes a long way.
Hmm, makes sense. I like it. This ties in really well with Venerable Maria Teresa Quevedo's third point in her Code of Amiability, which is to add a word of benevolence or goodness when giving orders. Now, in marriage, we hopefully aren't barking orders,
Right, but we do
but
need to ask each other to do stuff, right?
right. So, she lived in a convent. We live in a house married. So, ideally, we speak to each other with words of benevolence.
Yeah, it reminds me of my dad. He was a good example of that growing up. Even as kids, he'd never tell us to just, take out the trash or whatever. He'd always add, please or would you or could you, could you do this? Would you do that?
Yeah, I notice that he speaks to your mom that way still, very, very politely. Would you, could you? And it's a beautiful thing. I've noticed that when you're married, you're living with this person, your spouse, for a long time, it's you have the tendency of getting comfortable with them, and which is good, but the world will tell you when you're comfortable with someone. I mean, I've noticed it in movies and just day to day. I have a friend whose sister told her, hey, I speak to you this way because I'm comfortable with you, But honestly, it's not a good thing to speak rudely to someone just
Right,
because you're comfortable with them, right?
right.
Come here, just saying, hey, come here, or why don't you get me this, or go get me a plate, right?
Yeah.
Rather, it's not too difficult to just say, hey, would you come over here, please? Or would you get me a plate, please? I need it for whatever. I mean, you don't even have to say what you need it for, right?
Oh, yeah. Could you give me
But
a hand with this? Or, yeah.
yeah, and rather than saying, "Hey, go do some dishes," this place is a dump. You could say, "Would you mind doing some dishes? I really was hoping to have some space when I'm cooking."
So that certainly sounds good. How does this help out in practice?
Well, following this part of the code to add a word of benevolence, it it helps it helps a spouse to be more respectful to her spouse. And because of that, your spouse feels respected and loved. And it becomes reciprocated, right? I know that when you spoke to me that way, because I entered our marriage not speaking that way, I was not in that habit. It became very easy for me to start speaking to you that way because you constantly spoke very respectfully to me.
Hmm.
So I started to use words like would you and could you and please and thank you more often. And so it's something that's more easily reciprocated when you do that. And then spouses grow in love and respect for one another. And another way that this helps is that you develop a habit of this kindness, this kind way of speaking, and it affects other people beyond your spouse, right? So for me, I'm with my kids a lot. I'm with our kids a lot,
Yeah.
and I speak to them with respect as well because it's become a habit speaking to you with respect.
Right.
So and
Because
then
it was a habit for Grandpa to talk that way. Yeah.
exactly. And they speak to other people with respect. So it just kind of keeps on going. So it helps a great deal in life in general with everyone that you encounter. So
Yeah.
sadly, some obstacles. Like I said, when I entered marriage, I did not have that habit. So that's a difficulty when you are not used to speaking this way. It's something new, and so it's difficult, and so it takes effort basically. And so it's also tough to speak with words of kindness when you're frustrated or angry. So in those times, it becomes a great challenge for you to strive to do that anyway. And with the grace of God, we can do anything really. So now, I've heard some people say, "Well, I don't want to. That's not the way I am. You're just going to accept me. That you need to accept me the way I am." I've actually heard that, and there you really need to think about, what Christ said. He said in Luke chapter 6 verse 46, "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I tell you?" And because Christ tells us to love our neighbor, and our spouse is our greatest neighbor, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't think it was ever be who you are.
yeah.
Be the better version of you.
Yeah, basically. So Christ is calling us to love one another, and love is kindness. Love is not
Patient,
rude.
love is kind. It's not arrogant or rude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So keep those words in mind when you're speaking to your spouse, and give it a try.
And we'll see you next time.